kind of fitting for the situation that some of those are coming into, about decision making and like how things that the decisions you make have either consequences or benefits or have what's the word, like a trail effect on everything around you and people around you. So first things first, Hunt, if you want to start, you always hear baseball compared to a chess match. What does that mean to you, and how can we compare that to a deeper level?
Well, the more we're diving into it, I was thinking about it in not necessarily a chess match, but it's essentially, I related it back to Wall Street. So every investment that brokers on Wall Street make are quantifiable decisions that ultimately lead to a certain outcome. So in my mind, that was kind of the analogy that I tied baseball to, because you're analyzing data, you're talking to people, you're trying to do what's best for different customers if you're the person that's in charge of investing for them. So it's relating back to ultimately what's going to happen on market. So there's unpredictable stuff that can happen. You're trying to tie in a bunch of decisions that ultimately have a huge impact on not only a certain individual but the economy as a whole. So for me, that was my analogy that I related baseball to.
So.
From the chess match standpoint, I think what I got out of it was quantifying your reason. So basically, that's exactly what he said, just in a stock market way. But it really made me think that I have made decisions in the past a lot of just kind of like, oh yeah, like she was talking about in poker, how you're just like, oh well, he's probably bluffing, right? I've done many decisions off, oh well, that's probably what the case is, but how can I try to make sure I'm a little bit more accurate with my guessing and probability of decision making?
The part you talked about quantifying, I know it's like jumping ahead a little bit, but the probably thing was super interesting. And that poll, like I know this is the next step ahead, but it was the stuff we've been talking about from a hitting perspective. It's because him and I have dove into, and Porty, we've dove into a lot of the analytical looking at the Rapsodo reports and all this data, and the one day I didn't say it directly to him until the next day because I didn't even realize what happened. Like I'm super overwhelmed with like just looking at all of this and not understanding it at the level we need to understand it at to have the conversations we had. So we took those 2 days and ironed it out. But to me, like that chess match from the side that I've been living in now is more working through all of this information and all of the stuff that we have and what pieces apply, like what pieces need to move and how do you communicate this and what do you do to that, I think is applicable to what we've been doing. And at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is just simplify the information, like what, and again, relating it to the chess, because initially when I read it, the chess part, I was thinking like managerial moves, like you need to do this based off of that, based off of this, dove it one step further to the analytical part, which is what we've been doing recently. So.
Yep. From a chess match standpoint, you think about the rules that are, and I don't know the rules, I get kicked out of the chess club in second grade, but when you think about the rules, they are predictable and reliable laws, I guess, that you act within. And the thing about, from a baseball perspective, what we're trying to do from a player development standpoint is create predictable and reliable outcomes based off of the hitters that we want to have in the box and things like that, or the pitchers we want to have in the mound. It goes back to what I was saying with some of the pitchers. I think it was last week, a couple weeks ago, whatever it was, is, you know, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be reliable. You know what I mean? That allows us to play that chess match. Otherwise, we are playing, like, we're flipping coins. Yeah, it's luck. And that's why, like, from a player development standpoint, you want to put guys in a position to make sure that when they are ready to compete, then you're going to get at least close to a reliable outcome. They're going to hit the ball hard. They're going to repeat. The one thing that we're talking about with a couple of the guys who have some crazy arm side run, and being able to create a reliable action on a pitch so that he can trust it and we can trust it. That's kind of where I would go with the chess match part. And then you asked to find another parallel between baseball and something, and I to be honest with you, I picked life. Like, I know it sounds like cushy and like head in the clouds type of stuff, but I think it's legit. Like, we are playing a game where your individual performance is pretty heavily related to, like, if I get in the box, you're not really helping me as the guy hitting behind me, not really directly impacting my ability to do my job, right? So the same thing, it doesn't matter if you're a baseball player or you're working, you're mopping floors or whatever it is, your job within that, yes, you're working in a team, but you're also doing a very individual job, if that makes sense. And I go back to the things that we've talked about with when we do championship work and we talk about do your job so well that the next guy's job is easier. Like, that's a part of it. Yes, it's a game. And yes, we play with 8 other people, but it's not like a basketball game where we're bobbing and weaving and running the picket fence and all that stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, when I have the ball and I'm the pitcher, left fielder, only the left fielder can do for me defensively is catch the baseball after my job is done. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to set picks and screens and all that stuff like that. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yes.
But, all right.
Next part, I was actually very interested in this. The word probably. In my opinion, that, and I'm guilty of as well, using the word probably is about as bad as dropping an F-bomb. To me, probably means no.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna get a hit here. You're probably gonna go visit some, like, my grandma, or like,
Yeah.
whatever the situation you're using it. There's always a chance that there's gonna be a no in there.
Yeah.
And because probably is such a lazy type of mindset, you're most likely not going to do that at all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I thought it was huge. Like, how can we, as a staff, kind of like avoid using those with guys and start just initiating just, like, fact and quantifiable data and everything to actually give them a real answer instead of a probably answer.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does.
For me personally, whenever, and I was thinking about this and it kind of hit me pretty hard, whenever I say probably, that's basically an indication that there's a 25% chance that it's going to happen. Because I feel like I use the word probably to provide a false sense of hope to the person I'm talking to make it seem like I'm going to follow through, when in reality, the likelihood of me doing that is not very good. So I feel like probably, to me, is an excuse that I'm trying to show you that I'm going to do something for you, but it's not actually going to happen. So to me, using that as an excuse, essentially. That's all I got.
Basically the same as them. I mean, I'm super guilty of it. And sometimes it doesn't even come from using the words probably. It could be stuff like, I'm like, yeah. Like, you can hear dude, it sounds like he 50% is unsure of himself. You say that, right? So I guess really kind of having composure before you're about to deliver that message and really understand how you want to deliver it in a way that makes them feel like you are being sincere and 100% mean what you're going to say.
Yep.
And also, I forgot the last word. Whenever I say probably too, or I think probably is a word that you cannot create buy-in and trust with. So if I go up to Ortiz and say, this will probably help you, then there's not going to be much buy-in or trust because of that.
For sure.
That's in general.
Yep, we talked about it before. I think the biggest thing is with follow-through. Right? I think it takes credit out of the bank. The same thing you guys are talking about. So
Over the last 6 months, any big decisions that you've made, how much of that decision was made off intuition versus how much of that decision was off quantifiable facts? Like, Matt, for you, huge example, right? You moved several hours from home, a new school, all that. I mean, you've done it before, but like,
and I'm getting married.
that's
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
That one.
Same with you guys, stepping into new positions and everything. It's huge. So like I said, how much of that was actually based off like an actual evidence of that?
For me personally, it's anything related to my career or like long term, as I've kind of talked about before. My goal or who I try to be is, or put myself in a position where I can impact as many people as possible. And for me, my decision making relies more on my faith than numbers or kind of intuition. So I'm constantly trying to evaluate and ask God for guidance on where I can go to impact the most people possible. So for instance, this summer when I had like 8 hours to decide if I was going to go to California and maybe be a coach there, I was praying up to that point, but I felt like God was leading me to stay here because I had the opportunity to impact more lives than I would over there. So I don't really know how to use numbers and combine numbers with my faith to further that decision making, but for me, I feel like God's a better guider of my life than I could use my intuition or numbers related to that, because I don't know how you quantify the amount of people that you could impact other than just leaving it up to chance. But I would be curious to see how I could use algorithms or some other decision making and combine that with a faith-based aspect to further that even more. Like if there's a way to determine what my impact could be in China versus here, like I'd be curious to see that.
But I don't think that, like, when you make a decision, it has to be literally a number saying something. As long as there's some sort of fact behind it, like this is going to happen because of this, or anything along those lines. But if that's your beliefs, that's sweet. You know. So.
That's related to more like long term, like
Yeah.
full circle pictures, everything down related to defense or hitting. Definitely getting more into the actual fact-based side of it rather than just throwing it up for chance and guessing.
Sure.
So it's kind of using different matrices, I guess.
Yep.
Mine's pretty ordinary, but it all makes sense as far as like, what my personal goals are. So I know, like, at the end of the day, I want to be somewhere in baseball, and the opportunity that I've been provided with here allows me to also get an education while also gaining coaching experience in an environment that I understand really well. I don't think many coaches that go out and grab GA positions at other schools, they might be able to get coaching experience and the education at the same time to try to boost their career at the next level. But how many times do you land in a position where you actually understand everything that's going on from an environment standpoint? So that's like a big push in the game for me, that I have that up on other people, because some guys go in positions that they just, a lot of new stuff. Like him for instance, like he's seen things done a million different ways. Came over here, seen it done 1,000,001 ways different here too. So it's pretty cool that I'm already pretty inside this environment and understand how it operates. And then from a long-term perspective, I think I quantified it with being able to see myself in college baseball and being able to see myself in the major leagues, and what qualifications do you need in both. So if I end up wanting to be a college coach, education and coaching experience funnel up to that, right? If I wanted to be in Major League Baseball, coaching and education, it can kind of vary at times, but obviously coaching experience can still lead you in that direction. So in between all that, building a network all funnels up to being in baseball as my career progresses. So it all kind of relates back to those two things: education and coaching experience. Pretty simple.
I feel real fortunate where I'm at.
Yeah.
Between being here, having Ashley in my life, I mean, there's a lot of things leading up to it that weren't as pretty as it seems. But I guess quantifying or trying to understand things, I always ask my why. We had the discussion yesterday about that, right? Like, why, being able to explain to myself why I do something. And don't get me wrong, there's times like, it just kind of takes over. Like, you just have that certain feeling, like you just make a decision based off of it. But also having more people in my life makes that decision a little bit different. Like, this decision this time to take this job was not just my own. You know what I'm saying? Like, every other previous job that I've taken up until this point was just myself. Like, do I want to do this? Do I see myself being here? What can I get out of this? And then this was the first time, and it was actually a really, really awesome experience for me, was having the conversation with her. like doing it by yourself is one thing, and I'd see the same thing as a relationship with God, right? Like it's having somebody there. Like for me, that's her to help me through this process. So I asked her, we sat down and had a conversation about it, and she asked what my intentions were. You know what I'm saying? Like you work through that process, which is again why I feel very fortunate to have her in my life, who again supports in what I do, which is rare in itself. So again, going back to what you said, it's quantifying my why that helps me navigate through that easier, as opposed to just making decisions. So it's working through that process for me.
I thought about it less from me making big decisions and more about the fact that we are in a huge decision industry.
Yep.
From a recruiting standpoint. And the thing that we have, like take for example, one of the commitments that we got was we were school 3 and on a 3-day trip, and I'd like to think that we provided more insight rather than opinions, and we were able to change the mind. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people make decisions. I was guilty of it a lot as I was younger, and I'm not saying that I'm wise now. I'm just saying that I've changed the way that I choose to make decisions. Where a lot of people make decisions based off of preconceived notions, opinions, whether they're like legit opinions or opinions of other people or industry norms or things like that, when you didn't actually look at the facts. Like, what are the facts and what are the actual things that exist in that decision? What does the framework of the building look like? The building of this decision that you're making, what does the structure look like? Because a lot of people, they make decisions because they didn't like the color on the wall. You know what I'm saying? But they make the decision, they don't make the decision based off of the things that really matter, which would be the foundation, the structure, and things like that. So for me, that's one thing that I've challenged myself to do, is try to associate my decision making with things that are facts. And it's very easy, I don't say facts, but it's very easy to just go another step forward and ask, well, let's break this down a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, what is it? And I think that's what we've done a good job of with some of these recruits, is we've been able to go, hey, you should come play here because you're going to get better. But we've been able to provide actual numbers, right? The average of the top 50%, like everything that we're showing them are tangible things that they can see and experience and have an emotional reaction to, rather than someone's opinion. In the words of Pat Hyman, the truth ends all conversations. So when you put yourself in a situation where you can make a decision based off of actual fact, life is good. And then so the way that I wrote it, and you guys know I like my stuff here. This is you got the opinions that I was talking about. Call those the preconceived notions as well. And then I'm gonna put facts, but I'm gonna put that in like air quotes, because I don't think you can really get the facts without the numbers, right? But most people, when you think about, like, most people buy, I'm gonna try to fashion some sort of an example that hopefully you guys will understand, but
cars.
A car. Yeah, but I'll be honest with you though, like this is something I learned from being a car salesman, right? This was in our sales training. I only sold cars for 2 or 3 months, but I had 2 weeks where I was locked in a room, basically had to learn about sales. Most car salesmen, when the people come in on the lot, they ask, well, what color car do you want? What, the person buying the car will come in and say, I want a red Toyota Camry. And then the car salesman goes, yeah,
That's what I got.
great choice. The car salesman says, okay, let me go show you all the red Toyota Camrys. Not once asking, why do you need a vehicle? Because once you actually go through these layering of questions, you realize that they could walk off the lot with a damn, an SUV that was freaking lime green. Because they think they think, and they have this opinion or this preconceived notion that they're showing up trying to buy a red Toyota Camry, when the reality is, and it shouldn't be facts, probably reality is better, because reality could be is tied to perception. So you don't need the facts. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is,
I just noticed you're a righty writer, but you're a lefty thrower.
yeah. The only thing I do left-handed is
I'm
just
spaced
throw.
out over here.
Yeah, I do everything else right-handed.
Was I just check that? He's just like,
See this?
he's
He's writing.
using his
Yeah,
right
he's
hand.
using-
He's using his right hand.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah. But the reality is, they need a vehicle that's going to be good on gas. They need a vehicle that they can carry. Like, what is it you're going to be using? Like, what do you carry in your car? And blah, blah, blah. And then it was crazy to see how much their opinion changed of what they thought they wanted within 30 minutes. You know what I mean? There's a large majority of people who are making decisions and end up making terrible decisions because they're not going off of their own personal reality or the facts associated with what it is they actually want. So from a 6-month decision, I've got a lot coming up. We all have had a lot in the past. You know what I mean? Anytime there's been anything that happened in my career, it's been, well, what's 5 years look like? Like, what is real about 5 years? What's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to this? What's going to happen to that? You know, and basically profiling what I think the reality is going to be moving forward. But the other thing too is, when we're talking about, I had wrote down thin slicing the information. Has anybody read Blink by Malcolm Gladwell? Outstanding book. He talks about, you know, when we have that intuition, you were asking about intuition. That intuition is based off of, this is in his book, is based off of your experiences. So your mind is actually a very, very incredible computer that can take everything that you've experienced and then assess what is going on, and within a split second, you have an opinion of what needs to happen. Does that make sense? So that's what that is. That's why if something happened in here, somebody came in and there was some sort of I don't want to say threat, but some change to our environment, there would be 6 different ideas of what just happened. You know what I mean? Based off of our experience. That's why when things come up, it is different, because I'm just by default, I've seen 11 more years of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that the experiences you guys have had don't make you better decision makers than I am. It's just that that's kind of that whole idea of thin slicing.